Hello, everyone. Today we will discuss in more detail the issue of the use of antibiotics. The use of antibiotics, especially those absorbable by mouth, has multiplied and become commonplace over the past 50 years. Of course, pigeon medicine has adapted all this, as it should. The successes of this pigeon medicine have resulted in a trivialization of these antibiotics, many errors, many gossip, and therefore many failures. The vast majority of antibiotics are produced by lower fungi, molds, etc., present in the soil, growing on certain foodstuffs, etc. Specialists have traveled the world, from the poles to the equator, in search of fungi capable of secreting a new antibiotic. About 3,500 have now been found. Let us add that the natural antibiotic, secreted directly by the fungus, is then the object of innumerable artificial chemical modifications which increase its effectiveness or favor certain properties. An antibiotic can have two distinct properties. One is the blocking of the multiplication of the microbe, so it destroys certain products essential to the reproduction of the microbe. The white blood cells were responsible for cleaning up and ridding the body, microbes thus rendered incapable of multiplying. All antibiotics have this property on the microbes that are sensitive to them. The other property is a disinfection property, the antibiotic itself, after a more or less long presence time in the body, hence the need to prolong the treatment sufficiently, kills the microbes itself. It is now only their corpses that the white blood cells have to rid of. Not all antibiotics have this property. Those that have it are said to be bactericidal. The effectiveness of antibiotics is specific. That is to say that such an antibiotic is active against such a microbe. This notion needs to be refined. Let's take an example. A colony is struck by paratyphosis. In the laboratory, a Salmonella typhimurium is isolated, which proves to be sensitive to terramycin. This antibiotic will surely be effective in this colony. But if a colony located 300 m away experiences the same disease, there is no guarantee that the germ, Salmonella TM, responsible will also be sensitive to terramycin. If a treatment stops the evolution, it is because the germ will be sensitive to this antibiotic, but if it does not stop it, it is not because it is worthless, but quite simply because the microbe in question is not sensitive to this antibiotic. It's a bit like using the wrong key in a lock. Some germs, whose varieties are very numerous and long and difficult to specify, have a very variable sensitivity to the various common antibiotics. This is the case, for example, with staphylococci, associated germs very common in coryza. The failure of a treatment is therefore the result of a poor adaptation of the remedy to the germ in question. So either you have to do an antibiogram each time, that is to say, try a certain number of antibiotics on the cultures of this microbe to see which ones are active, or else do a blind treatment to modify and resume if unsuccessful. Apart from this alternative, there is nothing. The rational use of antibiotics is subject to a number of rules. Some antibiotics are toxic at doses close to the therapeutic dose, the one that should be used. An overdose or too prolonged use of streptomycin, gentamicin, neomycin can cause hearing problems, kidney damage. Therefore, no use without a precise prescription from a person skilled in the art. Then there is the therapeutic dose. This is the dose necessary and sufficient to obtain the blocking and the elimination of the microbe of the disease in question. Added to this notion of therapeutic dose, the rate of administration, and that of duration of treatment. Of course, the antibiotic is, after a certain time of a few minutes to several hours, either eliminated through the kidneys, urine and droppings, or decomposed and inactivated, most often in the liver or kidneys. It is therefore necessary to renew the dose, so as to maintain the therapeutic dose, sufficient dose, as regularly as possible in the organism of the pigeon, through drinking water, by multiplying the meals at least 2 to 3 per day, so as to multiply the need for drinking water accordingly, by tablets, when administering at least 2 times a day, in injections of the same unless using, if it exists, a well-tolerated long-acting form. A number of nonsense blooming. Among amateurs, many shorten the treatment. As it was written previously, this risks allowing a new beginning of the evil, either because the antibiotic action was too short to allow the white blood cells to finish their work, or because the bactericidal action of the antibiotic S has won, did not have time to settle. Others lighten the prescribed doses under the silly pretext that it tires the pigeons. Pigeons that have to be given antibiotics are usually not in great shape. Otherwise, they wouldn't need them. So common sense dictates that it is the disease that tires them rather than its remedy, whatever it may be. The therapeutic dose was established after multiple tests, first at the level of the antibiogram, then at the practical level. This is the one that gives the best results. To lighten it is to allow the microbe to get used to the remedy. In insufficient quantity, the antibiotic does not prevent the microbe from reproducing. Thus are born resistant strains, against which the antibiotic, whatever the dose used, will no longer be effective for a very long time. We do not handle antibiotics just anyhow. If the sick organism is the victim of dangerous microbes that are fought with one or more active antibiotics, this organism also contains good microbes, normal hosts of the intestine, the back of the mouth, the nasal cavities, which can be sensitive to the remedies used. Also, is it desirable to restore the microbial balance in these organs? In the absence of a culture of this normal flora, it is useful to administer to the pigeons, after an antibiotic treatment, live lactic ferments. Unfortunately, some veterinarians trade in pigeon medication for a lucrative business. Some are the basis of drug abuse, not the least of which is antibiotics. They often prescribe in a so-called preventive way. Some scientific sources confirm a long list of undesirable side effects of antibiotics, especially when prescribed in a careless and unnecessary way. They are the basis of resistance bacterial. How to explain that bacteria can quickly develop drug resistance? Because they multiply at lightning speed and are able to produce proteins which can degrade antibiotics and other drugs. But what is catastrophic? They manage to store this biological information in their hereditary code, in particular in the nucleic acid, DNA, by regularly administering antibiotics. Selection is created. Only the strongest and hardest to fight bacteria survive, giving rise to secondary infections for which there is no cure. The choice of an effective antibiotic therefore becomes more and more difficult. A conscientious veterinarian is often obliged to make a biological culture to be able to establish an antibiogram in order to try to find an antibiotic that is still effective. Some antibiotics are even toxic and can damage the liver and kidneys. The regular administration of antibiotics can promote other pathogenic flora, such as fungal molds or yeasts. This has the consequence that a modern broad-spectrum antibiotic, such as doxycycline, which is part of the large family of tetracyclines, certain products of which combined with a vitamin complex are considered by some pigeon fanciers as a health cure, can also become inactive. You are certainly aware that some pigeon fanciers, often under the influence of their veterinarian, give antibiotics at the start of the competitions, supposedly to prevent the so-called ornithosis complex, respiratory and head diseases. The value of administering antibiotics for a so-called preventive purpose The day after the start of competitions is highly debatable. We work blindly, trying to prevent a bacterial disease from breaking out for which we do not even know the pathogenic agent. It is very frustrating. These preventive cures could only be justified in exceptional cases, for example after very tough races, when the pigeons had to stay in the baskets for a long time. With great regret, to note that some people tend more and more to increase the use of miracle drugs, including antibiotics. Yet experience has shown them that a colony can work very well with the minimum of drugs administered when necessary. This deplorable development is probably caused by a lack of honest information, which only cites the advantages but forgets the disadvantages. A recent study dated June 13, 2019 from the Knowledge Center for Antibiotic Use and Antibiotic Resistance in Animals shows that racing pigeons are treated on average 1 day out of 10 with an antibiotic during the flying season in Belgium. Their use is mainly prophylactic and intended to fight subclinical infections and to overcome periods of stress, for example after transport. Fanciers also administer antibiotics to their pigeons to improve their sporting performance. Antibiotics can only be dispensed with a prescription and can only be obtained from a veterinarian or pharmacist. They are, however, often acquired through channels that are not legal and, therefore, without a prescription or under the supervision of a veterinarian. The quality and safety of these substances can be questioned. This advisory is intended to draw the attention of fanciers and their veterinarians to the risks involved in the use of antibiotics. The administration of drugs is strongly conditioned by a distinction between food-producing and non-food-producing pigeons. For the latter, 13 drugs are currently registered in Belgium against only 3. For the former, here are the drugs that the veterinarian can use in racing pigeons. Ornicure 150 mg per g, Columba. R12. Theraprim pot 80 mg per g, Nobilis paramyxo P201. Isoba. Trichoplus. Trichicure. Amoxicure. Coxaplus. Spartrix tablet. Therapmi sachet. And Avicas. Ornicure 150 mg per g is a powder for administration in the drinking water for racing pigeons used to treat infections caused by doxycycline susceptible Chlamydophilus atossi, 46 mg doxycycline hyclate per kg body weight body for at least 30 days. It is also used to treat infections caused by other pathogens sensitive to doxycycline, Pastorella multicida, Mycoplasma spp 20 mg of doxycycline hyclate per kg of body weight for 5 days, administered in drinking water. It can also be administered directly in the beak, once a day. Columba is a vaccine against pigeon paramyxovirosis. A dose of 0.3 milliliters of vaccine will suffice. Active immunization of pigeons from the 4th week of life to reduce the severity of clinical signs, mortality, and the period of virus shedding following infection caused by paramyxovirus type 1. Onset of immunity, 14 days after the last dose of the vaccine, and duration of immunity. 1 year is proposed according to the level of serum antibodies measured. R12 granules for oral use for pigeons. 100 g of R12 contains nicarbazine 0.08 g. These are homogeneous orange-yellow kernels of corn. Each grain is coated with a compact and translucent layer and is well separated from the other grains. It reduces egg hatch in city pigeons. For best results in decreasing the number of pigeons, the use of the product must be part of an integrated control plan. Theraprim pot 80 mg per g is a powder to be used in the drinking water for racing pigeons. The veterinary medicinal product is a fine white powder used to treat infections caused by pathogens sensitive to trimethoprim provided that a Sufficiently high concentration of trimethoprim is reached at the site of infection. Nobilis paramyxo P201 is a vaccine against pigeon paramyxovirosis. Each pigeon should receive an administration of 0.25 milliliters of the vaccine by subcutaneous injection in the lower part of the neck. The vaccine has been shown after challenge to significantly reduce viral shedding. Pigeons can be vaccinated from the age of 5 weeks. A duration of immunity of 1 year has been demonstrated. Isoba 100% M/M is a liquid solution for inhalation by fumigation for the induction and maintenance of general anesthesia in racing pigeons. Isoflurane is a potent anesthetic of low solubility and allows the induction of rapid changes in the level of anesthesia. Administer isoflurane using an accurately graduated vaporizer associated with an appropriate anesthetic circuit. Trico Plus is a water-soluble powder for administration in drinking water. Contains ronidazole 50 mg per g. It is used to treat trichomoniasis and hexamycosis. In carrier pigeons, dissolve 1 sachet of Trico Plus in 2 liters of water, a daily dose for approximately 40 pigeons. During treatment, birds should be prevented from drinking water from other sources. Repeat the dose every day. The duration of treatment for trichomoniasis is normally 5 days, for hexamycosis, 7 to 10 days. In case of severe infections, treatment should be extended for 5 days. During the competition season, 1 sachet of Trico Plus in 2 liters of water can be administered every fortnight for 2 days. Before and after the competition season and during breeding, it is recommended to administer 1 sachet of Trico Plus in 2 liters of drink for 5 days. Tricocure is a tablet, contains ronidazole, 5 mg per tablet. It is used to treat trichomoniasis in carrier pigeons. Administer 1 tablet of Tricocure per pigeon directly in the beak after the meal. In case of serious infection, repeat the operation 2 days later. If necessary, repeat again a week later. Systematic treatment. 1 tablet of Tricocure per pigeon to be administered in the beak after the meal, after a flight having caused a long absence, during the months of flight, at the time of the purchase of the bird, during the season of competition, every 15 days, during the weaning of the young pigeons. Amoxicure is a water-soluble powder for oral administration through drinking water. Contains amoxicillin. It is used to treat infections in pigeons caused by amoxicillin-sensitive Streptococcus galolyticus. It is also used to treat infections caused by other germs susceptible to amoxicillin. The amoxicure solution must be renewed every day. Consumption of drinking water from other sources should be avoided during treatment. In addition, it is important to maintain good hygiene in the loft to avoid further contamination. Coxy Plus is a powder to be dissolved in drinking water. Contains sulfatomethoxine, sodium 250 mg per g. It is used to treat coccidiosis in carrier pigeons caused by coccidia susceptible to sulfatomethoxine. The amoxicure solution must be renewed every day. Consumption of drinking water from other sources should be avoided during treatment. In addition, it is important to maintain good hygiene in the loft to avoid further contamination. Dissolve 1 level scoop of Coxy Plus in 2 liters of water, daily dose for 40 pigeons. The duration of treatment is normally 5 days. Spartrix 10 mg is a tablet for pigeons, contains carnidazole, 10 mg carnidazole per tablet. It is used to treat trichomoniasis in pigeons caused by Trichomonas gallini. 1 tablet per adult pigeon. The tablet should be introduced directly into the spout. All pigeons in the same loft should be treated at the same time as untreated birds are a source of reinfestation for treated birds. Theraprim sachet is a powder to be used in the drinking water for racing pigeons. The veterinary medicinal product is a fine white powder used to treat infections caused by pathogens sensitive to trimethoprim, provided that a sufficiently high concentration of trimethoprim is reached at the site of infection. Dissolve 1 sachet, 5 g, of theraprim containing 400 milligrams of trimethoprim in 1 liter of hot drinking water, 50 to 55 degrees Celsius, mix in a blender. Then dilute until a final volume of 2 liters is obtained. This is the daily dose, 20 milligrams trimethoprim per kg body weight for approximately 40 pigeons. The average body weight of a pigeon is equivalent to 0.5 kilograms. It appears from a recent study that the continuous administration of trimethoprim through drinking water, 200 milligrams per liter, makes it possible to guarantee a constant concentration of at least 0.5 g/milliliter. The average duration of treatment is 5 days. In the event of serious conditions, such as acute salmonellosis, it is, however, advisable to prolong the duration of treatment. Avicaz is a tablet. The medicine contains Preventive, 15 milligrams of Preventive per tablet, used to treat parasitic infections caused by Ascaridia columbi and Capillaria spp. As a precautionary measure, all pigeons in the loft must be treated simultaneously in the event of contamination. After treatment, clean the loft thoroughly to prevent reinfections. Frequent and repeated use may lead to the development of resistance. It is recommended to give only 1 tablet per pigeon, to be administered directly in the beak. Repeat the operation after 8 days. I certainly do not want to end this chapter without drawing attention to the immense therapeutic value of antibiotics, which have saved so many lives. Only they must be prescribed in an expert and justified way. When a competent veterinarian prescribes treatment with an antibiotic, the treatment is necessary. This treatment must be done according to the prescribed duration and dose. There are amateurs who think they are doing the right thing by increasing the dose. It is a mistake.